All right, we are live, and it has been a while since we've done one of these, but I've been thinking about it for a while, and I think that if we're going to open up memberships, then these should kind of become a regular thing, or at least a more regular thing, so I can kind of offer some kind of deal. Hey, support the channel, we will do live unboxings with votes and things like that. Or I don't know, maybe those will become... This has been tough. Like, I want to take it seriously, but I also don't want to commit to something since this is very much a hobby that I can't necessarily deliver. And I don't know. We'll figure it out. Yeah. So, let me start setting up the first of these polls, because the first thing that we are going to do today is... There. Let's set up for Origins, shall we? Dupe, and let's get all these in here. So I have... That's one I definitely have. I also have... That's one we could do. He's one I think we could do. Hey, what's going on, man? Oh, I didn't even know he was down here. That's terrific. So, let's add... There. Perfect. Bam! Let's go ahead and put that one on there. There, we got a poll running. We're off to the races, and I'm doing fine for what it's worth. Doing fine, I guess. I don't know one way or another. Still got stuff that I need to check out and everything, but hey, in terms of how I feel right now, I'm doing pretty good. So I got Liquid Death. That's always good. It's always good to have a can of Liquid Death when you're getting ready for something. Oh, I loved the 1940 Superman. Oh my gosh, absolutely, without a doubt, loved it. I'm very torn on. There's. Of course, I know I want next week. I think they're doing Starman is one that I want. Damage is one that I want. Kingdom Come Superman is one that I want. There's like 9 of them coming out that I want. I want the Supergirl that's coming out. This is tea. This is the tea actually. I'm not doing the water one. It's pretty good tea for what it's worth. I've had worse. I've definitely had worse. I've had more expensive too. Tea is getting to be absolutely outrageous. I picked these up. They sell these teas at my Dollar Tree, so like they're like $1.25. So that's pretty good actually, especially for Liquid Death in general. We are unboxing some DC figures. That's also on our lineup. We're just starting Motu. I have a little bit of time today, so we're gonna fill it. Wow. So far, it's going to be She-Ra. Okay, apologize. Got all my stuff. Got my drink. I got a snack. I had to put Battle Cat back up there. Make sure he was right. So far, that looks like the figure we're going to do, which is more than fine, because she's definitely one that I want to see anyway. And then... those are going to be for the next line. I'm going to try and give this like the 5 minutes. I think you two might be the only two in here right now. I'm not looking at my analytics or anything like that right now. But hey, if that's the way this goes, then that's the way this goes. I'm not too worried about it. I think I want that classic Superman too. I think I do. I'm really fighting with myself, though, because that classic Superman, it looks a lot like the Christopher Reeve body with a different head sculpt and slightly different paint. Maybe it's a combination of the Christopher Reeve body and the 1940 Superman. I could see a little bit of both going on there. Because there's a classic 1980s Superman thing that they're releasing, and it looks good. It looks like the Superman from the era that I grew up, one that I really want. Have you seen Justice League New Frontier? It has Lucy. Yes, I own that movie, and I own that book, and I love it. And that's one of those things that I was talking about with Power Girl. Power Girl, I know a lot of people were mad that she was, like, very tall. But most continuity has her at anywhere from 5'11" or 6 feet tall. And she could be a little bit taller than that, or at lowest 5'11". She's a tall woman to start with. Now, Superman, on average, is about 6'4", if I'm not mistaken. 6'3", 6'4". He's usually supposed to be about as tall as Batman. And the thing is, with Power Girl being 6 foot tall, and in some continuities, I have books where she has fought with Wonder Woman and been the same height as Wonder Woman. Now, that's artist inconsistency as well, and I know people take this very seriously, but like, her size did not bother me the way other people were bothered, because some people were really, really mad about how big she was, and it just doesn't bug me. The video posted this morning. Stopped collecting TMNT because I bought a few Super 7 figures and 2 of them broke, taking them out of the package. Oh, fun. Fun. Absolutely fantastic. I actually, like, in Superman, Batman, Public Enemy, like, they do her fine, but I actually think, through the comic books that I've read, she almost seemed short in that movie. Like, I remember being like, shouldn't she be the littlest bit taller? But that's what I mean, is how this material is so subjective, and how each artist kind of pins their own thing to it. I think some artists very much took it upon themselves to make her taller than she was, because I think when she originally came out, Power Girl was smaller. Like, she was shorter. And then they've slowly but surely, different artists have kind of grown her up, basically. Yeah. Well, we are doing She-Ra, so I'm going to end this poll because it doesn't make sense to keep it up at this point. We're 5 minutes in. I'm pretty sure we are where we're going to be. We're going to be doing She-Ra. Oh, man. All right. Let's do it. She-Ra Cartoon Collection. I love She-Ra. I really do. I'm going to be honest with you, though. When I first started getting into Motu and I started watching everything, I watched all of Revelation, all of Revolution, went back, watched all of the original He-Man, then stopped, read every single comic book that had been released, then came back and watched She-Ra. And getting to about the second season of She-Ra, it started to stale on me pretty hard. It really did. There was I think it was the supporting cast. The supporting cast has always bothered me in She-Ra, and I don't like Hordak as much as I like Skeletor. So, like, I noticed a difference, is what I'm saying. I noticed a real difference in that show. The back art here, I already seen, aren't we getting, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if we're getting her. I know we've already got the Horde Trooper. Aren't we getting him? Has that kind of been made official now? I'm not 100% sure. And I'm not going to speculate as to whether or not it is. I'm just going to open this. I want to see it, and that's the way it is right now. And we have a lot to open, so let's see her. Okay. She is unboxed. Let me fix this camera because I think when I moved, I went out of focus, which isn't that rare, to be fair. So let's get in here. Doop. Let's go. There. Okay, fixed. So, she's on the cartoon body, of course, for what we've been getting for these figures. Her arms seem solid. I was a little worried about that. That's the thing about these old figures. They don't have, this is it. This is the amount of movement they have. I'm one of those people that actually likes the double elbow and whatnot. I think it's actually important. I think we get a lot out of that double elbow because this is like the range of movement that you're going to get. But for a figure like this, kind of like a Superpowers line, these are very much trying to be what they were in the original. This is very much what they're doing. This is trying to replicate a figure as if you had bought this in the 1980s. So I don't exactly hold it to that kind of standard. It doesn't bother me too much that the movement is kind of old. And I will say that for what it's worth, the knees feel good and everything. We've got a decent amount of turn. I don't think you're going to have too much trouble getting her into any kind of poses. This cape, it's just like a ring here, and of course when you pop the head off or whatever, you could take this cape on and off. I would keep the cape on. It's a rubberish material, but it's as you can see, it's not going to get in your way, but it's also not going to do anything. Oh, we did that capes video specifically where I was talking about this, and it's weird to claim you want to modernize the figure and then not offer us, if nothing else, just a cloth cape. This kind of looks good, but it also feels very dated, and it's not going to allow us to do anything in terms of dynamic poses or anything like that. But this is her, man. This is She-Ra, 100%. The face is very good. Like, it's done very, very, very well. It very much looks like her. I like the hair. Nothing seems to be in her way. She's moving and everything. She came with her sword. And then people are going to say, and her shield. But like, no. She came with her sword. And I know immediately it's, oh, and her shield, but that's not true for this She-Ra. I like that they include both of them, but if you're going for, if you're making the argument that you wanted a cartoon She-Ra to put on your shelf, that's inaccurate. That is accurate. Because the sword, at least in the She-Ra cartoon, changes into different things. Including, there's actually an episode where she like turns her sword into a blanket. Like some ridiculous stuff. But it's good. This is a solid figure. I have no reason to hate this. The face is the biggest draw for me. Yes, the costume is actually very solid as well. This is the costume that we saw in the show, which is kind of important because the She-Ra figure that we've had in Origins up to this point, the multiple of them, have never actually been the cartoon She-Ra. They've been the mini-comics She-Ra, and that's not the same thing. Kind of like how He-Man that we had all those years ago, those were mini-comics He-Man. He-Man, He-Manses, He-Mins, He-Minses, whatever. He-Man-I, those were from, that's not the same idea. Every single one of the Origins figures, every figure that we got back in the 80s was not based on the cartoon. The cartoon was just kind of like a side universe. Every toy was more based, roughly, because that's even kind of getting into its own thing too, because like in the mini comics, sometimes you would get the figure and it wouldn't look like the figure in the mini comics or the character in the mini comics, but also it would not look like the character in the show. It would be its own thing altogether. Toys are kind of wild, and Motu's definitely one of those things that's kind of wild in terms of how stuck people get on it being authentic or whatever. Like canon, I guess, is what people do, and when they argue over the storyline and whatnot, it's different in every continuity. Like, that's one of the things I love about it, is that I don't like worlds shrinking in terms of Motu. I like it when it's bigger and bigger and bigger and vaster and vaster and vaster. And Motu does that with every release. It reinvents itself and reimagines aspects every single time. From the mini comic to the toy to the normal comic to the crossover comics to the show to the next show that came after it to the next show that came after that. Every time it's a reimagining and retelling. It's kind of like if you rolled this character in D&D. Every time you play this character, even if you play it the same way, the stories and the attitude will be different as you play it. And that is actually how I see Motu. Every single new telling of Masters of the Universe is a new telling. And you kind of take it for what it is. Or you get super serious and you tie yourself down to classics and you don't allow anything else to write your headcanon. It's just classics and nothing else, and we can never have any other storylines or any other ideas. End of story. And that some people are very much like that. I'm not, and I don't intend to be. She-Ra, added to the shelf. I'm kind of thrilled with her. I actually think this is very, very solid. Let's go back into the chat and see what people are talking about, shall we? Let's see. Motu figures have really stepped up the sculpt in the last year or so. I think so. Yeah, and actually, you know, I've liked him from the beginning. I know people are set in their ways or whatever. I think that Masterverse has been solid from day one. It does not. I mean, and then people are like, well, that He-Man or that Skeletor, blah, blah, blah. I think they looked like Revelation, and that's what they were supposed to be. So, like, I think they nailed it from the ground running. There's a vintage style. Those are vintage figures. They look vintage. There's a New Eternia style that's very much kind of based on like concept ideas. That's what it is, and it works perfectly. There's a Revolution, there's a Revelation, and then there like every single one of them is different, and they're kind of selling a different idea, a different style, a different artistic interpretation. So like to me, it doesn't bother me that we've had 3 different mermen. I've actually liked all 3 because I think that all 3 that they've attempted, they've nailed. Is there a vintage? I think isn't there a vintage merman that they released? Did I miss that? Or am I imagining that? Do I have all the mermen and I'm now imagining one that I wish they made? It's very possible. Let's see. Otherwise, nobody's really... hold on. I think I got cut off in the chat. I did. I got cut off in the chat. That's the reason nothing was posted. That happens every now and then where the chat will kind of cut me off. Hey, what's going on? What you doing? Still think Motu Classics is better sculpt-wise than Masterverse. There are some new figures that are approaching them, and the cartoon collection have much better heads than Origins. Like I said... subjective, argumentative. I don't think that Origins was ever meant to be the cartoon. So I know like her head sculpt, that's something we were just talking about. That looks like She-Ra. But I would argue the other one still looked like She-Ra. Just like He-Man. That He-Man figure that we got all those years ago that now we've got again in Origins was never meant to be the cartoon He-Man. That's not what he was. Yes, there were toys and there was a cartoon, but it was not the same thing. And I've never understood 100% why people kind of get hung up on that, because like I've been living that since Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles, those figures were absolutely not the cartoon. Not till later, and they started kind of looking like the cartoon as they released more and more and more. They were based kind of on the comic book and kind of on the cartoon that was about to come out, and that's what they were. They were kind of an amalgamation of in between the two ideas, and they were never meant to be just the cartoon. They were more based off the comic book at that time. But we all played with them and looked at them in a certain way. And then when I grew up, the ones that I specifically wanted the most were not the ones from the cartoons. They were the toys that I played with that weren't necessarily the comic books and weren't necessarily the cartoon, but like an amalgamation best of both worlds. And as for classics, also subjective, argumentative at best. I've never, and this stands for a lot of toys in that time, by the way, so understand what I'm about to say. When Mattel did classics, I did not like those bodies. I have never liked those bodies. I have never been a fan of the way toys were in that era. The modern, new moving forward figures. I always thought they looked awkward. They were wide, super buff, didn't quite move the way I wanted them to. Their legs kind of felt weird to me. I never liked that middle thing they did, like that W cut that allowed them to move. And I didn't like capes, because I'm not talking about just classics. I'm talking about the superhero classics as well, like DC classics. I did not like those. I didn't like that Wonder Woman. I didn't like that Superman. I didn't like that Batman. Like, a lot of them, they was the body designs. I never cared for them. And then, of course, when I was seeing them in classics for He-Man and stuff like that, I didn't like those either. I didn't buy any of them. And I've never felt like I missed out. I actually prefer the Masterverse body sculpt, the Buck, compared to the classics Buck. I always have, and probably nothing is really going to sway me on that one. Maybe had I been there and been in the trenches and bought every one, I would have like a nostalgic connection, something that made me go, these are the best. Kind of like, arguably, my favorite Ninja Turtles, the best Ninja Turtles ever, the ones that I went out of my way, I had to have them on my shelf, are the Super 7 Ultimate first and second release Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Those are the best. They look exactly like the toys that I grew up with, but taller, and they have modern articulation. And the bodies move like I feel Turtles would move. Like that's also a big point. Sometimes in Ninja Turtles, when they add like a mid-cut and the Turtles can do all this stuff, sometimes that bothers me because, like, they have shells. And I know I'm getting hung up on something that's same as somebody else's opinion, argumentative, but like, and very subjective. Sometimes I feel like you need a lot of movement in the arms, the neck, the legs, and this shouldn't move because it can't. They're not soft shell turtles. And that's always kind of the way I felt about it. So when I did my Holy Grail toys and I talked about those, and that I put those on the shelf, I was thrilled. And now we've got some really, really, really cool turtles coming out. I've seen some unbelievable turtles. But for as good as they are, the ones that I have in here and in here are always the designs I grew up with. And we've never seen those designs in a cartoon or a show ever. Ever. We've seen close, but we've never seen those designs. And we've never necessarily seen them used in a comic book. The closest that we ever came to having those designs in a show was the 2000X or 2002 or 2003. I can't remember. I say X because I don't know what date it was. It was 2000. Was it just 2000? Regardless, those turtles, that era, kind of looked like them, but also did not. They also looked different enough that when the toys came out, I was uninterested. I think the Cartoon Classics He-Man head is the best He-Man head sculpt since Motu Classics. I think they all have their own artistic integrity behind them. I actually really, really like, and I've talked about this, I kind of like the ugly He-Man head. I kind of love it. To be honest, franchise properties that start as toys are rarely these days, from what I know. The toys usually just come after a show or a book or a game. So Motu, G.I. Joe, TMNT, interesting to me. I get that. Let's see. Well, but I get exactly what you were saying. In terms of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they were a comic book, then they were a toy, and while working on the toy, they were also working on a cartoon, but these two properties were not necessarily working in perfect conjunction with one another. So the first toys are kind of sculpted as comic book toys. And then suggestions were made to change the colors and things like that to kind of differentiate them, also to sell more toys. That's a real conversation. You can see that conversation is recorded between Playmates and the creators, Eastman and Laird, in the room talking when they're like, look, we're not going to sell just one turtle, and nobody's going to buy the same turtle 4 times to get the weapons. But if they were different, like each one needs to stand slightly different. There should be colors on the bands, because originally they were all just red bandanas, and that was taken away. It was the toys. And then when it came to the show, and the show kind of added even more of a lighthearted feeling to them and everything, and it just changed the dynamic as it went from property to property to property. So to hold those toys and say they should look like the cartoon, well, they shouldn't. They were never designed to be that in the first place. Those Joy Toy Teenage... Dude, those are sick. And that's what I was talking about. I can look at those and say, those are unbelievable turtles. But I can also look at those and go, they're not the ones I want. Articulation is superior in the new Masterverse figures, but the actual detail on the arms, legs, abs just don't look like human anatomy. I'm sorry. We can go on for days on this. I think Classics He-Man does not look human. I think they look awkward. I think they look like... It almost makes He-Man look like a really short dude decided to get really, really buff steroid. Like, where Masterverse tends to be a more believable body to me in terms of what a guy could accomplish from getting big. It's just, it doesn't... See, and that's what I mean. All of this is art. Toys are art. And I would argue with anybody, every single sculpt is an artist's interpretation. Just like every time you read a comic, the guy that pins that, the guy that pencils it down, he has put down an art. It is his vision of what he sees. And in some cases, if you really get into comic books and whatnot, you'll find that sometimes the guy that does the pencils and the guy that does the inks, they don't like each other because they have two different visual artistic expressions going on. And sometimes the guy that does the pencils, the guy that does the inks will do them and be congratulated by the guy that's doing the book. And they'll say, oh my God, that was absolutely fantastic. Where the guy that did the pencils will be like, he ruined what I was doing. He ruined what I was doing. It's no longer what it was meant to be. So, like, art is incredibly subjective. Incredibly subjective. From one person to the next to the next. Hey, what's going on, man? See, I know that you don't care about or possibly straight up hate Digimon and Transformers. We'll talk about both those here in a second. But they are also toy-first properties, which, to be truthful, a ton of people think they started with anime. So let's address that for a second. I do not dislike Digimon. I don't know anything about it. That's simple. That's simple. In some ways, I've looked at its anime, of which I've only ever seen 12 episodes, and very much like I was going to school. They were on TV. They were on when I was getting dressed. I'd get dressed, get my stuff, grab my Pop-Tarts, walk out the door, turn the TV off. I'd probably never finished a complete episode ever. And And what I was seeing was not enough for me to be like, oh my God, Digimon, I gotta see. Like, it never hooked me. It just felt like a thing that was on in the background. And so I was never interested. And then later on, even if I sat down to try it out, I'd get like 1 or 2 episodes in and be like, nah, and I walk away. It's just, it doesn't hook me. It doesn't mean anything to me. But I'll say this. When I watched Pokemon, everything in Pokemon was incredibly episodic and never felt like it mattered from one episode to the other, like one episode to the next, because it goes for an entire season telling a cohesive narrative. And then he goes to a new area and everything he learned he forgets. And we just start again. And it doesn't feel like the same guy. And it drives me crazy as it goes thing to thing to thing. So I don't really like the Pokemon anime. And I don't have any real interest in the Digimon anime. And when I played Digimon games, which I played a few, they felt meh. Like, I never played one, and I haven't played all of them. I played maybe 2. And both the ones that I played were like, this is fine. I remember I played like a fighting game that very much was like an arcade fighter of sorts. Was that on the Game Boy Advance? That may have been on the Game Boy Advance. And it was fine. At best. Played it with my buddy for a while. Meh. So I just don't have any... I don't have any blood in the game. Like, I just have zero interest. So, that's my thing. But I can tell that their anime, even in first glance, even in passing, seemed like it was probably superior in terms of storytelling and detail and kind of keeping a cohesive narrative over Pokemon. But game-wise, I was playing Pokemon, and that's what kept my attention. So that's what I stuck with all these years. And I never jumped into Digimon ever for any reason. Transformers was a property that I barely missed. Barely. Just like He-Man, just like Motu, it was off TV by the time I was old enough to give a crap about what was on TV. And since I didn't get into Transformers as an adult, like, I'm going to tell you my association with Transformers. I had a couple of toys. They were fun. I watched Michael Bay movies. They were fun. And before everybody gets mad about Michael Bay, let me tell you something. Michael Bay made me a promise with Transformers movies. He said, robots, marines, cars, planes, explosions, ladies, go. And I said, hey, I'm into all of those things. then that was it. I went to Michael Bay movies to watch cars that transform into robots blow stuff up. And it just so happened there were some hot ladies around for the situation that was taking place. Okay. Hey, when's the next movie? Oh, there's another one? I'll watch that too. Here's another movie. Oh, sure. Explosions and blah, blah, blah. I'll watch that too. Hey, this one has Leonard Nimoy. Sure, why not? Like, that's all they were doing. And that's all they were promising. And for a guy that had zero stake in the game, they did exactly what I wanted them to do. So, like, great. Like, it was great for me. It probably made other people very mad. But, yeah, it didn't bother me at all. Pokemon is formulaic. Digimon, every season, something different. They saved the digital world. Also, like, take it from a Digimon super fan. Aside from very recent ones, you didn't miss anything. Games was mostly trash. Shows are kind of carry. The shows kind of carry, so the exact opposite of Pokemon. No offense, Ash fanboys. You whatever. Just don't mean nothing to me. Let's go to those. So I know that I know that's a thing, right? That a thing? You a thing? You're a thing. What are you? Oh, yep, absolutely. That's a thing. Move that aside. Move that aside. What is this? Up. We'll add him to the possibilities. And then this is up. Okay. And we'll add this to the possibilities. I think I did that right. Bam. There. That should be the next wave of possibilities. What are we doing from Jada? I have 2 Mega Man figures and 2 Street Fighter figures on there. And we'll see what ends up winning this next thing. And then we'll open something. And then she can go back there for later, because I got to get a shot with her for the thumbnail when we do the thumbnail on this thing. Let's see. Oh, man, I saw that. Yes, I would put... So here's the thing. I bought the Ali figure from the Mattel wrestling figures. Was it Legends or whatever? I don't know. Regardless, I was very surprised. Very, very surprised with the Foreman news. I mean, like, I don't remember ever hearing about him being sick or anything. Just out of nowhere, all of a sudden, Foreman was gone. Like, just out of nowhere. That honestly shocked me. I did not see that coming. Absolutely floored me. And so then, like, seeing that news kind of blew me away. And when the wrestling figures released the Ali figure, I was hoping that what was going on was maybe they'd gotten an... It was just a pipe dream, but like I was really hoping that they'd gotten the license to make boxing figures and that Ali was a testing ground. They would put out an Ali figure in the wrestling line, and if it sold enough, they'd go on to produce an actual line of boxing figures. That was my hope. And it didn't happen. I bought the Ali figure. I'm pretty sure he sold well. I don't see why he wouldn't. He looked great. And my hope was that if I bought him and I supported it, and maybe if I was lucky and that's exactly what it was kind of like a backdoor testing, like, oh, let's see if we can get the toy thing off the ground without having to put too much in. And it didn't happen. I was really hoping, though, because there's a lot of boxing figures I would have bought. A lot of boxing figures. There's almost no wrestling figures that I would buy. That's just not me. It's just not me. Hey, what's going on, man? He said it. I don't have to say it. He said it. But yeah, absolutely. And then as for this question, Street Fighter, man. Street Fighter. Did I spell it wrong? There's always the possibility that I spelt it wrong, but I'm pretty sure I got it right. That's Street Fighter. Street Fighter 2. The new what was it? New Challengers. Was he added in New Challengers? I feel like he was one of the guys added in New Challengers. Man, it's a night tonight. My brain is not processing information. 2. Yes, 2. DJ is from Street Fighter 2. I believe he's from the New Challengers. I think that's when he was... Because I think he showed up right alongside Cammy and Fei Long and whatnot. Oh, my gosh. Oh, man. What are my thoughts on the Four Horsemen Dragon? My thoughts are... I wish that was something I could justify. I cannot. I'm very excited for everybody that gets one of those because, wow, that is shockingly good. Like, it's a dragon. It's a table-size dragon with expanding wings, with fire breath. He comes with charged skeletons and now a fire knight and like a crusader, like crazy knight guy thing. I don't know what he is. But like, oh my gosh, dude, this is like dream material. This is some stuff that would have absolutely slayed when I was a kid. Not that I would have got it when I was a kid. Nobody would have bought me that $550. There's no way. That thing is unbelievable. In fact, that dragon proves beyond the shadow of a doubt that we are currently living in a time, okay? We are living in a time that is absolutely, undeniably, we have a larger chunk of the toy industry as adult collectors than we have ever had in history. In history. Like, this hobby has gotten so big that they can make a table-sized dragon and it gets funded. We are living in a time when they can make Eternia and it gets funded. Like, these are not being sold on retail or to kids in any stretch of the imagination. They're 100% adult collectors, adult-driven material. We are living in a time when Frazetta icons are selling out. I put a Vampirella on my shelf. 2! I'm about to have 3 Red Sonias on my shelf. All decent-looking action figures. I have a Tyrus Flare. You couldn't have sold a Tyrus Flare when I was a kid. Who would buy it? Like, this. We, right now, right this second, are living in the golden age of adult collector action figures and action figure collecting in general. We are the golden age of action figure collecting right now. We are it. After us, it's going to be like comic books. It's going to slowly fall into Silver Age, Bronze Age. We are it. We are the golden age, the peak of the adult collector. It's us. And the market is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger beyond argument. Well, then, I don't know. You should play more Street Fighter 2. DJ is very much a thing. So far, we are unboxing DJ. I'll go up there and check here in a second because I think our time is hit, so I'm going to check the rest of these. It was awesome to see you add the TNG to the shelf. I need Wesley Crusher and Guinan. I do need a Guinan, and Wesley wouldn't be a bad idea to add either. I very much would like Ensign Wesley if I get one. That's kind of where my mind goes. Dude, it ain't a Wikipedia thing, man. Unless you know what? I don't know. I don't know what you're worried about. So far, Guile has won, but just for the sake of, here's Guile. That's what we're going to do. That is DJ, and he has been around forever. Like forever. That's DJ. Forever he has been around. He was in the Street Fighter 2 animated movie. Like, that's how long he's been around. And Super Street Fighter 2. Look, man, I played DJ even in the arcade. So, like, it's just Street Fighter 2. You can add all the tags you want to it. It doesn't change what it is. It's a Street Fighter 2 thing. But Guile has won this one, so we're going to end that poll. Guile is the one that we are going to open, which is fine, because this dude looks pretty sick. Like, he looks pretty sick. I have not been disappointed with a single one of these Jada figures. Not a single one. That's impressive. That is impressive. Okay. Let me check my stuff here. All right. Nobody loves Cutman. It's true, man. Nobody loves Cutman. It's so sad. I have a friend who that's his favorite Robot Master. That's the Robot Master. Like, anytime that you ask that question, it's kind of funny. We will talk about that after this, actually, because I do have... I almost thought about making that its own video, because that's something that I did have some stuff to say about. But let's do it. Let's open Guile, because we're here. Let's do it. Street Fighter 2, Guile. What can I say about Guile? What memories, what insight can I give you about Guile? Here, you want a story about Guile? When I grew up, we played Super Nintendo. And we played Sega Genesis. I had a Sega Genesis. My buddy had a Super Nintendo. My dad had a Super Nintendo. They were separate entities. I had to ask to play the Super Nintendo. And giving the same respect to me, even though I was a kid, if I was out playing like with my Joes or whatever outside, my dad would come outside and he would say to me, he would say, "Hey, Bill, do you mind if I play Shining Force?" And he had to ask because it was my thing. It was my Sega Genesis. You know, that sounds like a small thing. But, like, that set something in my mind about how respect works. All those years ago, that my dad had to come outside. He chose to come outside and have enough respect for me to say, "Hey, I bought the Sega, but can I play it?" Like, other parents that I have known, they don't ask. They're like, "I bought the thing." That, I remember that. That sticks in my head. But when we played on those systems, okay? When we played on those systems, this guy is a cheater. American Soldier Man cheats. He cheats. Not that everybody else in the game isn't automatically a cheat anyway, because if you remember playing those games on those old systems, they're all cheaters. It used to drive me crazy that Guile could be walking towards me. I would jump to do a jump kick, and all of a sudden, he would flash kick. He'd just flash kick. And I'd be like, "Ah," and I'd get hit. And then all of a sudden, I'd land on the ground, and I'd be like, "Hadouken!" And he'd be like, "Sonic Boom!" Immediately. He just landed. Like, I would hit the ground, he would be coming down, "Hadouken!" He goes, "Sonic Boom." And then I'm like, well, that's fine. You have to charge for 3 seconds walking backwards before you could shoot another one. I'm just going to follow it with another one and jump into you. So I'd be like, Hadouken, immediately, half a second. The Hadouken has just this immediate second connected with his, and I'm immediately firing another Hadouken, and he's just like, "Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom." So I jump over it, and he's like, "Flash kick," and I'm like, "You can't do that! I can't. I know how your moves work, cheater." Like, he used to make me so mad. Like, he was the thing that made me realize games will cheat. Games don't have to follow the rules of the game. That was the first time I made that realization. I used to say to myself, well, I'm just not good enough. I got to get better. I got to learn the moves and kind of find the inputs and whatnot. No, that wasn't it at all. Because when I played against people, people couldn't do those things that the computer was doing because the computer would cheat. And the computer could see what you were doing. So it could react in inhuman response times to what you were doing with moves that made no sense, like when Blanca would do his cannonball thing while walking towards you. You can't do that. Any human player that plays Guile has to set up his attacks. He has to find ways to set you up. So he has to get you into the idea of jumping or whatever, and he kind of gets into a situation where he's kind of jumping, and then he's holding down before he ever hit the ground, and then you've got to jump another one to him, and then he does the flash kick because he's got the 2 to 3 second input, and then he hits up. Or same with, he has to get you falling. He has to come at you hard and come at you, and then you kind of get messed up, so then you want to pursue him. Guarding isn't working for you, so you go all offensive, and he backs up all of a sudden. He's prepping to set a trap to get that sonic boom. That's a human player. The computer just does it. It's cheap. It just does what it wants to do. It's not right. It's bogus. And I did not know. I was still a kid. I did not know at the time that I was being cheated. Until him. He's the one that made me realize games cheat. And it wasn't just me being a sore loser. You're not fair. Let's open him. Boy, he was twisty-tied. Like, there was a lot of those little things in there. That was actually kind of excessive, if you want the truth of it. Like, There were way, 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 way too many of these. Okay? Way too many of these. But here he is. Guile. Look, so let's go over it for a second. Right off the bat, the shirt has like an actual texture to it, which I'm actually very impressed with. That's actually crazy. And it feels kind of, how do I put this? Like the look of it feels real. It's tight in certain places and it kind of clings to his skin, but at the same time it's loose like a shirt would be for this kind of body in general. The pants also have an interesting texture. It's different than the shirt is what I'm trying to say. So like they went out of their way to make sure that this kind of felt different than the shirt does. And that's the level of detail that I've come to kind of expect from Jada that blows me away. Boots are solid and everything as far as I can see. I don't think that we're going to, oh yeah, absolutely. We're gonna do no problem whatsoever in terms of posability, movability. Dude, Jada is just rocking it. This back doesn't go. Oh no, there we go. Up. Okay, so we got that. We can do that kick. Okay, he can do this kick. He can do it. He can cheat you, and he can do the kick whenever he wants to do it because he just gets to do it. Have absolutely no problem in terms of his arm. He can get a lot on there. We've got the tattoos, the American flags. America. Like, come on, dude. This guy's excessive. Like, is this what they thought? Like, when they were looking over here, is this how they seen us? Like, it's fine, though. This guy, you can't deny how cool Guile is. In fact, I fought with myself about this. I knew the green one was coming out. Player 1. And then I fought with myself as to, should I get him or should I wait for the blue shirt? Because, like, I do like the blue shirt. That's something that I've always kind of liked. But I did decide that I just wanted the player 1. Like, and I haven't bought a player 2 yet from this collection, and I don't think I'm going to. They have not caught me with the gimmick of different head, different effect yet. They almost got me with Chun-Li. I wanted that smiling face, and I want the Hook-in blast. But so far, I have not been able to get it because I'm not buying a player 2. I'm not doing it just for one head, especially as Jada's prices are increasing as we speak. So, yeah. This absolute ridiculous flat top hairstyle, fantastic. He's not going to have any problem looking all around. Look, he's a Jada figure, guys. This is what we expect. His other face is just really angry. Oh, and by the way, I have a feeling, I'm going to call it now. We got the victory faces on the player 2 characters. If we get an alternate color characters, like right now I think Chun-Li has a blue, a red, and a pink. I think. One of those 3 has the victory face, the smile, and she also gets the victory sign, the extra hand, and you're able to swap them. I'm curious. If they do a 3rd or 4th of these guys, will we get a defeated face? Like, the bruised, bashed, bloody face? I'm really curious about that in general. Yeah, dude, you gotta hand it to Jada, man. They don't mess around. He comes with this hand. And this hand. You know what that hand is? You know why you got that hand? You have this hand specifically for that accessory. That is a comb. That is a comb so that he can put the comb in this hand and comb that fantastic do. I gotta hand it to Jada, man. They know. They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do that. That is unbelievable. That shows a level of love for the property that they are currently working on that is almost unmatched. Now, my Guile's foot is acting funny, and I'm not going to force it. Everything else is moving. Oh, well, it moves up. There we go. Okay, never mind. Got it. I didn't want to force it though, because we just had that video where we talked about how that kind of happened to me, and I wasn't about to have it happen with. But so far, see, that's the other thing too about that video that I did talking about this. If you manipulate an action figure in the way that it's meant to be manipulated, and it breaks, I see that as a quality control issue. Figures are made for posing, moving, photography, and quite frankly, play. Even as adults, I'm sitting here moving him around and doing flash kicks and everything. If he can't do that, he's a bad figure. Period. And he can, so that is not what I'm saying. You understand the argument completely. This guy's fantastic. He also comes with the Sonic Boom, which is fantastic, and because Jada just can't help but be fantastic, Jada also gives you the stand for the effect. So if you would like to have your Guile cheat, your Guile can also cheat. He can cheat because he has a Sonic Boom. And I'm curious if they do another one of him, will they give an effect that clings to his foot and kind of wraps, you know what I'm talking about? Because that would be really cool. The last thing that I'm seeing here, we have to take the head, because this is amazing. This, you gotta give it up to Jada, man. Those are dog tags. Those are dog tags. I cannot believe that. The fact that we get them at all is shocking. But the fact that we get them and they're done well and they're on an actual chain, that's unreal. Oh, I didn't want that head, sorry. I just want this head for right now. Dog tags. Dog tags. Dog tags that will move, that will lay, that is unbelievable. Okay? That is a level of love, attention, detail that you simply... And I think maybe it's my age. Okay, guys? I'm willing to admit it. Okay? I'm 41. I'm willing to say that I remember how toys were very blatantly, and I played with a lot of toys. That was my favorite pastime, playing with my action figures. This was a dream. I got Street Fighter figures. They were G.I. Joes. They were passable. At best. They moved well enough and I played with them and I had them fight alongside the Joes and everything. They were not like this. They were not like this. They just weren't. To tell you that I'm passionate and love what I see when I put something on the shelf is an understatement. You might not, some people really might not get it. This small little thing here shows me just how far these things have come, and it almost vindicates how much time I spent playing a property like Street Fighter. Because if nobody else was doing it, this would have no purpose. They wouldn't be able to sell this and put this level of detail and admiration into it. When I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of people that played the games that I played necessarily. I grew up in an area where racing was a big thing. Very true, racing. And I was surrounded by 4 different garages that maintained and raced race cars. And a lot of the kids growing up, that's what they started doing. Like, they went down the road or up the road or whatever, and they kind of got involved with the different guys that were racing at the speedways. And, like, they would help do things like tune-ups and work on the car and do things like that. And I thought that was kind of cool, but, like, I was into video games. I was into action figures. I was into art. I learned boxing and martial arts, and I did not have the outlet that I have today. That's part of the reason I'm on YouTube the way that I am, because it gives me a chance to connect with people that simply had those interests, and I did not have that outlet when I was growing up. Everybody was wrestling and racing. I was boxing in video games, comic books, superheroes, Conan the Barbarian. It wasn't a thing for me. I had like 2 people that I kind of shared interest with, but nowhere at the level that I was at. So, I love these. Jada is rocking it. I have yet to see a bad figure from them, and that is amazing. When we come across the first Jada figure that I go, oh, what were they thinking? That's going to be almost a monumental video at this point, because I haven't had a bad thing to say about him yet. Head back to the chat. So, first off, will I be keeping my McFarlane figures when I go to, when they lose the license? Well, for one, let's just put this out here real quick, and let's fix the camera while we're at it. Bam! Bam! Let me say, the fact that he's unwilling to say anything means one of 2 things. There are 2 distinct possibilities. 1, he has not lost the license. That is still in negotiation. 2, he has lost the license, and he doesn't want to say anything, because if he does, if he says it out loud, he feels like his sales will tank because of this question right here. Am I going to keep buying DC figures when McFarlane loses the license? I would like to extend your question a little bit further. Am I willing to continue buying figures whilst I know his line is about to die? Yes, 100%. He has made a very large, accessible line of figures. Not every one of them have I agreed with, but the ones that I've liked, I have liked. So I'm not stepping away. And also, action figures are very complicated. There's a very real chance that Mattel got a superhero license. Even if it's the master license, they may have got the license to make 6-inch scale figures, which means the 7-inch scale figures are still open. And he could very much just keep doing what he's doing. That's not a guarantee. We don't know. Okay? And until we get any kind of actual concrete evidence to one or the other, I can't say. So now let's forward to the question that you're asking directly. I don't have an answer 100% right now, and there is a reason. I need to see what they release. People like to say they want Marvel Legends, they want to see Hasbro lose the license. There's a problem with that. And one that I don't think a lot of people have thought about. Do you want a Spider-Man? Go get one. Want a Hulk? Want the Gray Hulk? Red Hulk? Awesome Hulk? Original Hulk? Old Hulk? Go get one. Want Super Adaptoid? I don't know why you would. I only got mine because he was at Wally's on clearance. But there he is. Want the Fantastic Four? Want X-Men? Want X-Force? They're kind of completing that line. You want movie figures? You want multiple Captain Americas? You want Gray She-Hulk? You want 17 different Wolverines? There is almost nothing, and I'm not saying they're all good, there is almost nothing you cannot get because we have had almost 20 years of uninterrupted Marvel Legends. People that collect DC don't have this. We get a decade if we're lucky, and we start all over again. Every single DC line that comes out seems to go out of its way to put its own mark on the lines. And that kills what you've already bought up to that point. It's true that anything you want to collect, I still have Playmates toys on the shelf. Star Trek. So I'm not saying that these won't always be available, but like, say I wanted to start jumping on board with what Nacelle is doing. They won't go with any of that. And when Playmates tried to bring this line back, they didn't make it this way, and it shows. They don't scale to these figures. It doesn't work. So if you decide to jump into the next wave, all of that becomes useless. It doesn't fit. It doesn't match. It doesn't go together. It doesn't look right on the shelf together. If you have DC Classics on your shelf and you start adding McFarlane, they don't look right. They don't work right. But at the same argument, if you add Icons or Showcase, they don't look right either. Just like it almost seems like sometimes they don't want these lines to go together, because look at things like they got Superpowers that came back onto the market, and you got McFarlane doing Superpowers, and he messed up the first wave, and then he started listening to people, and then he started kind of re-releasing stuff and put it out at the scale so that it would match some of the old figures, and all in the line you could add them into your displays alongside your original ones and it would work. But they don't have that in most other lines. When this new line comes out, it might match nothing, and we have to start all over again. And look, guys, we have limited space. Limited space. So as we try to deal with this limited space, we're going to come across the question, what do? Do I get rid of all of that so that I can move to the next thing? I don't know. Because I can't collect both necessarily. And it would be almost pointless to do so. I have to see these Mattel figures. And then I have to make a decision that's going to be very, very rough. Because if I decide to jump into the start of their line, it will, in the long run, invalidate or completely remove that line from the shelf. I just got the Michael Keaton Batman. How long is it going to take before we get a Michael Keaton in a new line? Another 6-7 years? How long is it going to be before we get a Power Girl? Or the Cassandra Cain Batgirl? How deep, how long are we going to go before we get Question? Starting over sucks. Am I going to do it? I have to see the first wave. I can't give a 100% answer here. So far, I need to see what it will scale with on the shelf. Is it going to be a perfect dream for 6-inch to go alongside this? And if so, will that look weird on a Superman? Will a Superman body designed to kind of match what's going on up there, will that look weird? I don't know. That could hurt their entire line if they try to match Marvel Legends. Even though people have been asking that for years, it might make Batman at this point look small. Do we want that? I don't know. And if they make them too wide, then they don't go with anything on the shelf because they're like big, wide, bulky figures. And if they make them off the wrestling bodies that are currently going right now, well, then they match your wrestling guys, but like nothing else. And it's another standalone line that collects into itself and it goes nowhere. And then 5, 6, 7, 10 years from now, there'll be somebody else in the game and we'll start all over again. And that's what sucks about this whole thing. It's exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. I'm looking forward to new takes on figures, especially because I've seen what Mattel is doing, and I have a feeling that they can do this. Mattel is currently doing Masterverse. I love Masterverse. Mattel is currently doing the wrestling figures. I don't like wrestling, but I will not deny the quality that I've seen in some of those figures. Those two properties alone make me feel like Mattel will knock this out of the park given the chance. But will they knock it out of the park to be another standalone on the shelf line that matches nothing? There's a real possibility of that. Speaking of, Bill, since you're a Mega Man fanboy, did you ever play Battle Network? I did. Never mind, I know you did. Assassin, yes. And yes, CPU reading inputs is cheap. Fun fact, the original song that inspired the Guile music I can send to you. I'd be interested to hear it. Smash Bros. Has Guile as a summonable assist. He uses the exact same cheating to mess with players. Guile's manhole hair is actually a JoJo reference. No joke. His design is actually the American bootleg of a JoJo character. Street Fighter was around before JoJo, though. Are you sure that's right? Hey, what's going on, Copter? Jada is amazing. If they would have got the DC license, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I would have loved to have seen what Jada could have done with it. And look, like I said, all subjective. I've seen enough evidence that makes me feel like they can do it. I'm just curious what it will look like when they do it. Hoping Mattel does right by the DC figs. We'll see, though. Absolutely. Jada is getting Invincible, which could be cool. That could be cool. That could be cool. Oh, lost it again there. Got to redo the chat here. There we go. Street Fighter is your favorite figures right now? Did I pull the trigger? No, I did not get the Sorceress repaint. I was close, dude. Like, no joke. I was real close. That was a repaint. And I almost bought it. Like, dude, that Iron Studios repaint Sorceress is sick. And those are my favorite color schemes for like the Sorceress. But I already have her. She's almost $200. I'm going to pass on this one, though. Barely. Jada is wild. Just got David from Cyberpunk. He's a bit of a game changer. $45 for soft goods, butterflies, ball peg torso. I'm in. Dude, absolutely. Jada is just rocking it, man. Sten Sakai. Sakai? Before I answer you, I am going to guarantee my knowledge, because I'm pretty sure I know what that is, but I want to be sure for sure. Oh. I was wrong. I thought you were saying that there were figures based on this. But no, that's not what you were saying. Oh, wait. No. Are you talking about... I'm not sure. Oh, from what I'm looking up, are you talking about the Dan from this? Because if you are, I mean, he looks good, but I thought you were talking about something else. Regardless, he looks good, but like, here's my thing. I was very, very, very interested in NECA. I bought about 6, 7, 8 figures, and my interest in them for each figure I bought dipped a little lower and a little lower and a little lower. I think they break easy. They have a lot of quality issues. Some of the stuff they come with is shoddy at best, like the machetes and whatnot that break. My Freddy Krueger, his pants tore. They split at the crotch. For some reason, their version of Elvira, her ankles are weak and she will not stand up. She constantly leans forward or leans back. It's a real pain. They look great for photography, and then they come with a whole lot of issues that have just kind of made me walk away. And I've been told they've gotten better, but like in the modern toyscape, you only have so long to grab me. And if you don't get it, then I have to walk away because I only have the money I have and the time I have. And as I've argued on this channel many times, $20 spent here is $20 you can't spend here. And I like a lot of stuff. So like as soon as NECA, because I bought like I said, like thing after thing after thing, and every one of them I felt is like, I feel like they're kind of tight and unwieldy. And then when you do get the pose you want, like they're the stuff they come with, they seem to break. Like they kind of bother me, in all honesty. But then again, I do have a couple of them that I like. So I don't know. I almost have like a love-hate relationship with them. That's a very real possibility. What's going on, man? Let's see. Check Street Fighter II's designer revealed in an interview from '98 that Guile is designed and named after 3 JoJo characters. My love for NECA died around New Year. Sold my whole collection and invested into Mafex and Mezco. No regrets. I wonder if you were experiencing some of the same stuff I was. And this, I've never heard this, and this is kind of blowing my mind. If that's real, how long has JoJo been a thing? Because I was unaware of that completely. I didn't think JoJo was a thing until like 2010, 2012. Maybe I'm not saying I actually know. I don't watch JoJo. I don't have any skin in the game whatsoever. But you kind of just blew me away on that one, because if that's true, I mean, I guess it's cool, but also I can't care at all because I don't know anything about JoJo necessarily. I know my buddy Nick has watched it. Let's do... You know what? Let's do... Okay, so I know a couple of these that I want. So let's go. That will probably win, but we'll see. That's a possibility. Let's do... And then, just for the sake of, let's do... There. Those should be fine. Let's check this. See how that runs. You would know more about it than I would, easily. I know in terms of the artist, he'd been working on stuff like JoJo for years, but I didn't think it was popularized in a way that it influenced Street Fighter. But then again, we weren't getting anime and manga over here during the Street Fighter era. That was not a thing. Like, the first animes that really became a thing here that I can remember is like I remember like odd animes like what was that? The Glass Fleet, was that Mobius? I remember Gundam Wing was kind of what made Gundam over here. We had Dragon Ball and it failed, and then we had Dragon Ball Z and it like worked very, very well over here. Robotech was one of the earliest things that I remember that like stuck. Vampire Hunter D. Then there was like a bunch of stuff that like you could claim was a thing, but like it was a thing in like small circles here in America. Like it did not take off. Like things like Project A-ko, things like that. Iria, animes like that, you could find them here, but you would have to go like out of your way to like very specific conventions or like basically back rooms and whatnot to find that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't know about this. Swap a NECA hand and then swap literally any other company's hand. Swap the heads. NECA makes basic stuff. Fragile battle. Dude, see, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, I basically took the machete out of Jason's hand. Psh, done. I lost a fire effect. I pulled one of the hands, and like you said, very simple stuff that like shouldn't have been a big deal. Like I popped one of the heads off, and then like trying to put the other head on was an absolute nightmare. Like I should not have that level of trouble in simple action figure stuff. And I do. And in some cases, I've actually liked some of the knockoff NECA more than the actual NECA, because sometimes I actually think for what I'm buying, NECA is also sometimes very overpriced to me. But I don't know. That's just, we all like our own stuff that kind of talks to us too. So like I said, all of this stuff is subjective. It 100% is. I don't blame anybody for liking NECA the way they do, because I can very blatantly see how cool it is at different times. The anime came out in 2012, but the manga is from the 70s, early 80s. Yeah, I see. I did know the manga. Like I said, I know the guy that made it. He was working on it way earlier than when the anime actually came out and made a thing over here. I did know that part. I'm going to wait answers, see what these Mattel DC figures look like in person before buying for sure. But that's the other thing too. That's the thing about what's going on right now, is that say they release Wave 1 Mattel and you don't jump on it. You don't get it before you see it. And then it goes to aftermarket and like the Wonder Woman ends up costing $180. If you don't jump on it at the very beginning, you may not have a chance to make the decision later in a way that like works. See, I was thinking he'd be the one that probably hit the hardest. I was pretty sure when I added him that he was going to be the one we were going to unbox, and that's what it's looking like right now. Pop. Oh, man. Jada honestly just put a lot into perspective for me. It is possible for a company to produce highly articulated figures with extra parts, accessories, and advanced engineering for reasonable prices. And yes, I 100% agree with that. I 100% agree with that. JoJo basically was one of the cornerstones of pop culture for Japan for decades, but they also had trouble animating it. And I actually know a lot about JoJo because of Matt, Matttt. Go watch his videos. That dude is one of the best documentary investigators that I've ever seen on YouTube. He may very well be the best. So I actually know a lot about the JoJo stuff on the art side, not the anime side. Should I invest in Loyal Subjects TMNT in my opinion? I think they're decent figures, but I have noticed a lot of quality issues. As you saw in a video earlier, my Shredder, his legs fell off. I got them back on, and now he seems fine. But, like, that was pretty nerve-wracking. They have weird things they do with, like, leg bends. So, like, I really, really like Jenica up there. But I will say that, like, I can't do action poses where, like, say, like, a foot is in front of her and she goes to, like, knee him in the face with, like, a lifting knee. She can't do that pose because when her leg goes down, this, like, part comes out that's really distracting. The other thing I've noticed is that sometimes they have a problem in their bicep bend because I've had multiple figures now from them where like this isn't, like it's popped in all the way, but then there's like a gap. There's like a gap right here. And it's really off-putting. It really messes with you. So I have kind of a half and half thing going with them right now. Here's what I'll tell you. If you have a Ross or something in your area, go to Ross first. And don't buy a figure for the sake of you like it. A lot of stuff right now from that collection specifically can be found at things like Ross in general, or stores like that, like even Burlington, like the coat factories and stuff like that. Find one there. Doesn't matter what it is. Buy it, because it'll be like $8, maybe. Check that against how you prefer your action figures. I would tell you to do that before you make an actual decision on how that should work, because the Loyal Subject toys, I haven't had any major problems yet. But every single time I do a video on them, every single time, because YouTube works like this, I put out a video about Loyal Subject Shredder. The next day, in my suggested videos, there's like 20 of those videos, like, hey, this guy's talking about it. And then I'll go in and I'll be like, oh, I bought those 4 black and white and color band turtles. I love those figures. I think they're fantastic. And then I watched like 5 of those videos back to back, and like almost like 4 of those videos, they were all like, oh, their hand fell off, or blah, blah, this broke, or yada, yada. And I'm like, that hasn't happened to me. But I don't like the amount of videos that I'm seeing where it is happening. But I need to preface that for a second and say that YouTube and people that watch YouTube, they love misery. Like, I can't tell you how many negative toy channels there are that the only thing I see is them doing reviews on figures where they keep talking about how the figure's not worth it and it's garbage and why da da and blah blah Marvel Legends. And I'm like, why are you buying them? Like, does it make sense for you to continually buy things that you hate? And like, they'll sometimes say it before they've even opened the figure. Oh, this is going to be trash. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I saw people buy that X-Men 97 Gambit, and almost every other channel, almost every single one was going, I really don't like this. I don't understand why why he looks like this. He looks very cartoony. And I'm like, yeah. He's a cartoon from X-Men 97. that's what you bought. So it just, that kind of stuff blows my mind. But it gets views, man. So I can't make an honest referral. I have had no problems with them, except for those little things that I'm able to overlook because I'm never going to get a Jenica on the shelf. Okay? It's not going to happen. They're probably going to be one of the only people ever that make a Jenica figure. And I wanted Jenica, and I wanted to put her upside there. I wanted to put her there with my turtles, and she looks fantastic, and I'm very happy with her, and I'm happy. But I can't help but notice a lot of people are not. And I have a couple of things from them because I also bought the video game Foot Clan guys from them and had no problems with them. I got mine for way cheaper. They were overpriced. I waited. I was not going to pay $100 for those figures, but when they came down to $20 for all four of them, Bill took a 20 out of his wallet and he bought them. I have them up there with my shredder right now, and I love them. Like, they're very cool. And when they do cartoony looking turtles, they look cartoony. Like, so I gotta say, like, from what I've seen from them, I like them. But I won't deny that I see a lot of people that tend to have problems with them, and that worries me every time I buy one. I hope movie He-Man doesn't do a Transformers the Animated Movie and kill the cast off in the first 5 minutes to sell new toys. By the way, you spoiled for Conan figures this year. Dude, it's unreal. We have the Mezco Conan coming out. If I'm not mistaken, that's Mezco. It's the Arnold Schwarzenegger one in the war paint. I'm skipping him, but he's really cool. And then I got King Conan from Mezco, so I got that. And that's the one I care about. I care about the comic book way more than I care about any of the movies. And then we have the Frazetta that's coming out. I got that. I put that on pre-order. I'm getting that. Because that's my Conan. That's where when I visually see Conan, it is a mix between the Frazetta artwork, and I said a mix, and the first run Marvel Conan in the comic books. That is my ideal Conan. Oh, and I got that because he's coming out very soon as well. I think is he coming out in March? Is he coming out like at the end of the March? Am I about to get him real soon? But there's a comic book version of him coming out that I put on pre-order as well. I should probably go check my pre-orders before I get big surprises like too much stuff dropping at once. Well, thanks, man. I try to be. I don't have any reason to like, I'll hype something up in terms of I love it. So, but at the same time, even when I love a thing, I'm willing to go out of my way to go, look, this is for me. I can't say it'd be for everybody else. I try to do that. Let's see. People on the internet are usually psychologically masochistic. So let's check this. I'm sure I've given it more than enough time. Oh, really? I'm going to be honest. I didn't see that coming. Let's open them both. Like, it's my show. I don't give a crap. Let's open them both. Okay. I did not expect this at all. We are going to open up the DC Multiverse Green Lanterns Hal Jordan, and I'm going to have some stuff to say about that. But we're going to open it. And finally, I got a Michael Keaton Batman in a large scale for the shelf. I have a little one, like from years ago. I don't even know what company this was from. It might be Mezco. I'm trying to remember. I bought one, and he's only about that big. He's about like the Wonder Woman size that I have on the shelf over there, which makes me wonder if it was from that 112 Mezco. I don't remember. But I have it, and I like it for what it is. But I've never had a large one, like a large scale one, on the shelf. And I had a chance twice from this collection to do it. to get one on the shelf. Both times I passed. There is a reason I passed. And actually, I'm starting to lose sunlight, so let's turn on the stage light, shall we? And let's go over here. Let me move that, and we will hit up the second stage light to try to guarantee our lighting as we go forward on this. Bam! There. Now we have the two stage lights, and with stage lights, it's time to get bold, because it'll probably get warm as I do the show now, because that's the way that I have the window open, so we'll see if that kind of negates it. But these lights are pretty close. They're like right there and right there. But yeah, okay. But yes, I always wanted like a bigger one, but so far the two that were released, at least that I'm aware of from this McFarlane line, you know what? Let's start, because I can use all of this for the actual video. So let's start with the big guy himself, Michael Keaton Batman. Are you Michael Keaton? We'll figure out. So I wanted this. Okay, I wanted this like crazy, but they released it in a way that took it out of my price range in two different ways. One, they released this Batman in a big pack of a bunch of Batmans, and I was not able to do that. It was not something that I was going to be able to do. I had to pass on it. I didn't want almost any of those Batmans. I wanted just this, really. And since I didn't want the other Batman, I wasn't about to spend that money. Next, they release it with the Batmobile. Two problems with that. I saw the Batmobile, and I saw the glossy Batmobile that then had like the matte top that wasn't like right, and the window isn't like shaded, and it kind of put me off. And I was like, if I'm going to buy a Batmobile that's that big for the shelf, I need it to be right. I want that Batman, but I'm going to skip it. So I skipped it. And then I could kind of call out a shady practice on McFarlane's part, because he then released a matte finish Batmobile. I'm going to try to give him the benefit of the doubt here. He released the first Batmobile. It did not go over well. There were a lot of people that were mad about it. As I've watched, McFarlane seems a little more apt to listen sometimes and to change some things that he's doing. I'm going to try to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he heard all that and said, oh, people don't like this. And he backtracked and he released another one. But that doesn't change the fact that everybody that bought the Batmobile the first time now has a Batmobile that they don't like, and another one comes out with a matte finish that looks better, and the canopy and everything is like more on point, which makes you go, oh, great. And it's right there. It's this close to being what you want it to be. And then you realize the windows are still not tinted. Like he's seen it an absolute necessity that you need to be able to see Batman in the car. We got to see him. We got to see Batman in the car. But we don't. If we really want that, the canopy will slide and he'll be in the car. We don't care. The tinted windows, man. And I know that's a small thing to complain about, especially from me when I buy the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider and I know that the headlights are supposed to be like white and instead they're just like cutouts and there's nothing there at all. And I let that go completely because I was so enamored with the fact that we got a Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, man. But there are weird things that we will like focus on that we won't let go. And those windows like bothered me. And if I'm going to shell out the money, I want the Batman, but I want that Batmobile to be right. And if I don't get both of them, and if they're not both right, then it feels like the pack was wrong, and I spent money on one item And then, of course, it felt like a Build-A-Figure trap again. I really want that figure that comes from the Build-A-Figure, but I don't want these 3 guys that come with it. But I'll buy those 3 guys so I can get the legs and the torso. That drives me crazy. It's a thing I can't stand in toys. So I kept crossing my fingers and waiting. He's got to release a single, right? He's got to. And finally, single Batman comes out. Michael Keaton, single Batman. And now I have to wonder, am I going to find something wrong with it? I do have something I want to complain about that I already know because I've seen it from the promotional art. So I do have something to complain about. But overall, I'm hoping that after I complain, this is awesome. Let's open him. Wow, that was a lot. Like, that was a lot. Like, no joke. There's a lot in there, and it's in there. It's all these stupid things. He really loves these stupid things, and then everything's like taped in hardcore and everything like that. But got him out. So here is Batman. Here is Michael Keaton Batman. Michael Keaton. Are you noticing part of my problem that I'm going to talk about? Are you seeing it? Seeing the problem I have right here? See, this is a problem to me. Look, it's a chin. This could be Michael Keaton. Maybe. It could also just be the 1980s batsuit that a guy is wearing. There's not a guarantee as to what's going on here, okay? So like maybe that doesn't bother me that much. They didn't try to do a Michael Keaton head. So if it's maybe not him, so what? It really doesn't bother me that much. I can look at him and I can go, okay. And I can kind of see it. But there's enough doubt there as well that makes me go, oh, maybe it's not him. But I don't know that it's bugging me. Other details are absolutely spot on, man. Like, that is the body armor that he wore. Okay? That's spot on, 100%. Let's get into that bat. Remember that bat? In fact, one of my buddies at work, he likes Batman a lot. So that's like his favorite superhero. And he really likes the Michael Keaton movie. The first one. And so I thought for sure he knew this. And I was like, they even got the messed up bat on his chest. And he was like, messed up bat? And I was like, yeah, with the bat feet? And he goes, what are you talking about? And so I pointed it out. The bat symbol is not quite right. It doesn't just go down into a point. It goes into like these 3 points at the bottom. Well, they did that. That's right. And it's that yellow, that matte yellow, that's good. Nitpicking. Let us go ahead and put out a nitpick. I like this gold belt. Personally. But should that not be yellow? Like the same yellow as the bat? Am I misremembering? Isn't that supposed to just be yellow? This doesn't bother me enough to really mark him down or anything. It's a mild thing. Because I actually really like that gold. But I got this feeling, like in my mind, that the emblem and the belt were the same yellow, and they're not here. Does that bother me that much? I don't think so, in all honesty. I think I'll get over it. But it is a thing. The gloves, that detail is there. The way the gauntlet is and everything, that's right. This works. The suit very much looks like a type of leather and rubber. Like, that's cool. That's attention to detail. The diaper that McFarlane is famous for on all of his figures actually works here because it was there. Oh, and I love this. The Nikes. The shoes. I can't see a swish. I'm looking real hard. I'm seeing if they tried to sneak it in there. I don't see a swish, but these are very blatantly, you could tell these are tennis shoes that have been augmented into boots and then been given armor. I like that. You can see it. You can see it. That's really cool. His back is very simple. And there's a hole here, and I don't know what that would be for. Maybe it was the reuse of something that actually did use that. But then I would question that. Well, this seems like it's been glued on top or something. So maybe if I was to pry all this off, this one part on top was used for something else at one point. I have no idea. I don't know the line enough for me to care. I like him. But I complained about the belt. Let me complain about one thing else. Two things. This material. This is the same material they used, this nylon material. They used it for the 66 Batman as well. In fact, I think this is the 66 cape. Pretty much. One could argue that that's right, because it was kind of like a leathery, like heavy material when you seen it in the movie when he was walking around. So maybe this just kind of adds a little bit more like realism to what you're looking at. But the cape is big also. So like if he's just going to stand there, like the cape is like, it's always like really big and you kind of got to mess with it and like pull it down, and it's kind of a mess. Like it's kind of tough to get exactly where you necessarily want it. There, maybe that'll work, but it's flared out. There's two reasons it's flared out. Because he comes with these. And those things are so that you could put them in these little pocket areas. There's like a sleeve thing here, okay? There's a sleeve, and we slip it in the sleeve like that, and then we put it in his hand. I don't know if it goes in through this way or what, but you put it in his hand. Oh my gosh. And it's a real pain to do, by the way. I'm noticing that right off. So let me, oh my gosh, get in there. Let me not have it in the cape and try to kind of get it in there. Whew! Are these the right hands? So here's the thing. Let's check out his hands real quick before I do something I'll regret. He's got punchy hands. He's got this hand, which is just kind of a flat hand. And this is going to sound weird, but I think I know what this hand is. I think this hand is for when he's fighting the guy that's like really like kung fu expert, and he's like doing all this, and he kind of blocks and everything, and then he does this one move. I remember this from the movie because it always kind of like caught my attention. He just kind of steps forward and does this like stiff arm, and the guy like falls back. I think that's this hand. I don't know, but it feels right to me. He then has this hand, which is very much just a small grip hand. It's very specifically designed to hold this item right here. This item should have came with the Batmobile. It is literally the remote that he holds up to his face, clicks it, and goes, stop, shields, things like that. That's what that hand specifically is. Then he has this hand, which is, I believe this is the Batarang hand. I believe that's what this hand is. I could be wrong, but he also came with this fat Batarang. And I always thought, even when I was a kid, I remember kind of laughing at how fat the Batarang was in the 89 Batman movie. Because he takes it out and he's like, and I'm like, dang, you carry multiple of those? Because it's like this fat, man. It's like a big thing. He comes with these like ninja stars. I will admit to not having seen the movie in a minute. These are in the movie? I'm trying to remember where these happen. But he comes with them. Next time I watch the movie, I'm going to see him and I'm going to be like, oh, but yeah. Then he comes with the grapple gun, and he got the gold hook, which is cool. I mean, it's a paint top. It's cool for what it is. And it looks like it's got a good amount of detail on it, in all honesty. And then, of course, he has these things. And we're going to try again. These are hard to get into his hands. I'm like, no joke. They are, his hands do not want, for the life of him, to go into there. Okay, I'm going to stop forcing this because I think I'm going to have to heat him up and expand his hands a little bit. I think they're too tight. I think his hands are too tight. And I don't want to damage like the thumb or something. Yeah, it's like pushing his thumb down. Oh, up. Okay, I got one. Ha ha ha! I'm the best toy guy ever. This is ridiculous. Come on. Slip past the thumb. Slip past the thumb. Oh, oh, no. Oh my gosh. Batman! You're killing me here, man. Like, there is no reason that they should have made them. Up, 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 up. I'm the best. I'm the best. Look at that. I got his big nightsticks. I got him. I'm the best toy guy ever. Okay, now, if I could just get them into here. There's one. And then the other one. Point that back there. Get that into the stupid sleeve. And then we'll put his arm up. And then we'll put his other arm up. We'll extend his arm out. And he'll have the thing. And he'll be the Batman. And there it is. That whole struggle, that whole thing that we just did was to get this effect right here. Now, this is accurate to the movie. Very much so. He does that in the movie. He puts his hands on these bracer things, lifts up the cape, and then flaps it down, and he's very stylistic, and he's being a bat. He's being a big old scary Batman. There it is. Bum, 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 bum. See, there it is. Now, what am I complaining about? Because I gave the cape a bit of a pass. These things, these stupid things, they're stupid. I have one major problem with this figure. One. For some reason, they incorporated this gimmick, okay? And that's what it is. It's a gimmick. We're used to toys having gimmicks. That's not what I'm complaining about. This, if he sits on the shelf like this, it's cool, right? What if I don't want him on the shelf like this? What if I want to do a pose? What if I want to do a cool action pose, right? Well, let's see. Let's take those out of his hands. And let's take those out of the little sleeve cuff. And let's say for a moment that he was in a stance, or say he was running, right? Oh, there went his hand. Say he was running, right? Are you seeing my problem? Let me go find that hand. There it is. I didn't want to lose it on the carpet. The biggest problem, switching to his punching hand here, and take this hand, switch that to his punching hand. The biggest problem that I see, okay? This is the biggest problem I see with the entirety of this figure. I'm really loving and being excited about certain things that I'm seeing, and then I'm realizing we just did the capes video, right? Why is this not a wireframe cape? Why? Why is it not a wireframe cape? What are we doing? You know what makes it even more ridiculous? That Batman right there, the 66 Batman, he has this cape. And I talked about it in that video. I said, his cape seems too big. But it's got the wireframe, so like I can mess with it and it's fine. He's got the same cape that's really, really big. But you can't do anything with it. It doesn't have the wireframe. So it just statically lays here. And I'm not 100% sure what I can do with it. Like, if I snap off some photography sets with him, what am I going to have to do to make the cape seem right? Is this right? Do I have to do something like that? And then if I let it go, yeah, it'll flap back out. Because it's his cape. because people might complain about that face. I don't think it bothers me that much. I'm making jokes about it, but like, I see his chin. I see his eyes. His lips. He could be Keaton. But at the same time, isn't one of the points of Batman? You see his chin and you never really know 100% if that's... You don't know who he is? So, like, that doesn't really bother me. It really doesn't. And I guess I'm used to growing up in an age where none of the faces ever actually look like the people they were supposed to be, so maybe that's why it doesn't bug me. But the cape bothers me a bit. This is one of those situations where, say I wanted him to do his outstretched cape thing, right? If it was a wireframe, I could just do this with the wireframe and then put his arms out and get the exact same effect. The exact same effect that these cause. And I remember when they first announced this guy, I was looking at the pictures and I said, oh, he's actually got these little things in the cape. And I thought it was like in the cape, like a little handle. And I was like, he'll be able to put his hand on there and then like put the cape up. And then I remember even thinking a little back then, oh, is it a wireframe cape? Because if it's a wireframe cape, then why do you even need those handles? That marks him down a bit. I still like him. I don't think that I'm even necessarily mad about it, but I think it is something that people need to be aware of. They chose to do a gimmick with this guy, and it may have hurt the entire figure overall, because Batman, let us be honest about something with Batman, 20% of Batman is this cape. If Batman is without the cape, he looks kind of weird, right? Like, you see him in, like, action figures and whatnot where he doesn't have the cape, and you kind of go, oh, that's a cool Batman. But there is something that seems off about Batman not having the cape. So when you mess the cape up, I think that's a problem. But I now have Michael Keaton on the shelf, alongside Christopher Reeve Superman, alongside Adam West Batman, alongside Christian Bale Batman. I don't have a Batfleck, and I actually really like that Batman. And I don't have a Gal Wonder Woman. She's on sale right now too. She's being sold again right now, so maybe that's something to think about, because I like that Wonder Woman. I think she stole the last 15 minutes of that movie. Yeah. I think there are things that you need to be aware of if you're going to buy this guy. And if you can get over those things, he's fantastic. But you do need to be aware that he is not perfect. They made a couple of decisions that keep him from reaching the level he should be at. Okay, let me put this stuff over there, and we'll go back to the chat. Oh my. Whoop! Okay. Let's see, I know you aren't into Mortal Kombat, but I can't believe you can have Conan fight the T-1000. I have a love-hate relationship with Mortal Kombat. I've played a lot of the games, and I've enjoyed them. I've enjoyed them quite a bit. But if you were to ask me, realistically, Mortal Kombat will never be in my top favorite fighting games, because I feel like, just like Injustice, just like all the other games they've worked on, they feel choppy. Like, the inputs never feel natural to me. Dead or Alive feels natural to me. Soul Calibur feels natural to me. Mortal Kombat doesn't. But I love the fact that there is a Conan in a Mortal Kombat game right now, and that has me on the absolute edge of just spending my money on the first Mortal Kombat game that I will have played seriously since Deception. And I'm not kidding. That's how long it's been since I've put real time into a Mortal Kombat game. Let's see. Did you like the Punchline character or read the books? Shelf-worthy character? I'm having trouble remembering who Punchline is right now. So I'm going to say I don't know. And I'm actually surprised. I feel like that name is right here. I know it. Oh, Punchline! Okay, see, I just needed something to jar my memory for a second. I think she's neat. I think that we needed, Joker sometimes I feel needs somebody to bounce off of. Like, I feel like it helps. Narratively, and keep this in mind, by the way. I'm gonna put this out there for people that like to play things like D&D. D&D is at its heart a collaborative effort game. Everybody needs a character, and the characters need to be able to function in a team. If you have Mr. Edgelord cuts himself on his own edginess guy that like lone wolfs and does everything by himself and can't exist inside of a group because he's so cool, that guy's boring. He's not as cool as you think he is. He's cool in his standalone narrative. But you'll notice even in those standalone narratives, like often, and I'm kind of pointing out noir at this point, those noir movies don't work unless the guy is kind of talking to himself. Rorschach is cool. But say you remove the part of the movie where you can hear his dialogue, and the only part of him you ever hear is when he actually speaks, you know, like you would do in an actual D&D group. None of your like inner thoughts are part of the game. So your guy is just like boring. And what happens in a lot of comic books with something like the Joker is we don't see the Joker's thought bubbles very often, if ever. So if he doesn't have anybody to bounce off of, anybody to talk to, anybody to do something with, he's just like running around doing things, and he's scary, I guess? But there's nothing narrative taking place there. So one of the things that I think really pivoted Harley Quinn to the position she's in is that she was one of the first realistic things that we could watch the Joker bounce off of that could give it back to him. And yet he still had the edge. He was the character that we were focusing on. And she was the character that allowed him to bloom and be even more than he was already. Otherwise, he has to bounce off Batman. And he can't do that all the time when he's planning something. And if he's just talking to some random guy, it doesn't have the same effect. Joker needs to bounce off of something to hit us narratively. So I like the idea that Punchline is a girl that by a series of circumstances wound up having to deal with the Joker. And then kind of became like a weird, kind of like how there are fanboys for all kinds of things and fangirls for all kinds of things. And sometimes you look at those things and go, wait, you realize what that is, right? Like when everybody was like, oh my God, Joker and Harley Quinn are like the best couple. And then you kind of got to sit there and be like, have you read anything? Have you watched anything? Or are you just like looking at a couple pictures where they like hug and they're both like clown things, so it looks a certain way? Or maybe you've seen that one scene where they're dancing. Because I feel like you missed a lot of the nuance of what's going on if you find them to be the couple you ship. Those two shouldn't be together. But it's interesting how Punchline is that girl. she's the girl that ships herself with the Joker, regardless of how awful and stupid that is, becomes an absolute fangirl to the idea, creates a persona off of him and Harley, kind of. She kind of plays off both aspects, makes her own persona, and then even goes as deep as to model her schooling after things that she would need to kind of like follow in his footsteps, creates a version of the Joker gas, and then finally gets the attention of her notice me senpai, and the Joker actually helps her to perfect it, and then takes her on as his own kind of thing. And in a way, that's kind of awesome. I kind of love Punchline. Like, and I don't think she's been given enough to become a real icon of any sorts yet. Like, people seen the way she looked, and they were immediately like, oh, this thing right here. And then, like, she exploded. I remember she was everywhere for a little while there. And then all of a sudden, she was, like, nowhere. And, like, nobody talks about her anymore, really. I saw that she comes with the Joker, that there's a version of her that comes with the Joker in, like, a 2-pack. And I almost bought it. But it's that Joker. That's not the Joker I wanted on my shelf, and I'm not the kind of guy that wants to buy 6 Jokers. I kind of like Punchline. I kind of love that idea, and I wouldn't mind having Punchline on the shelf, but not necessarily that Joker. I got the Silver Age Joker, and I love him, and he's on the shelf, or will be on the shelf when I unbox him. And that's kind of where my mind goes to as the Joker. Like, that's what I like visually. Yeah. And because they'll never make the Joker that I want, because I want Willem Dafoe Joker. Like, that's my dream, okay? Is Willem Dafoe early 2000s Joker. If that would have been a thing, it would have rivaled the icon status of every other Joker before and after. I feel like he was born to play that role and never got to, or just had no interest whatsoever in doing so. And really, it could be either one. I don't know. But I kind of like Punchline. I really do. Took me a second to kind of remember what that was when I seen it there. But yeah, I do like Punchline. So, let's go ahead and move on. We still got some time here. I still got a little bit of time. Green Lantern, Hal Jordan's Green Lanterns. Yeah. Green Lanterns was a book. It is what it is. Love-hate relationship. I like the Green Lanterns a lot. Like, a lot. I really love them. I've read nearly 60 years worth of Green Lantern. It's not an exaggeration. I really did. When I got into them, I got way into them. And I went back and I read like the showcases, and I was just moving through and I was reading thing after thing after thing after thing. And then I got really into like Jeff Johns' run on the Green Lanterns, and that's what solidified it for me. Like the Light War and the things like that, and Blackest Night. Oh! I still find that to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, DC event that I have ever had the pleasure of reading. Not that I haven't liked a lot of other things, but man, Blackest Night lives rent-free in my mind, man. It's up here all the time. It never goes away. Randomly, sometimes I will think about something from Blackest Night. I'll just do it. I'll just be at work, and I'll be like, I remember when the Flashes were literally working with each other to send communications. So, like, I remember this scene in Blackest Night where there's 2 characters talking, and I believe it's in the Teen Titans. It's in the Titans comic, not the Titans comic. There's a moment where she's in the middle of talking, and she's like, the first thing we need to do is figure out if this is happening all around the world. And then the Flash that they have on their team goes, it is. It's happening everywhere. And she goes, how do you know that? And he's like, because I just talked to Barry. And she goes something like, when? And he says, like, in between if and it's. But really, because of the way they move and they think and they act, like, that makes perfect sense. He was able to be like, okay, she just said this word. He runs halfway across the world, meets Barry. Hey, man, what's going on? And then runs all the way and gets there before she gets the next word. So he didn't even miss what she was saying and had a complete conversation in between the two words. I love that. I love it. And so to say that I like the Green Lanterns, okay, I like them a lot. Green Lanterns, that book, introduced two characters that I like. I like Simon Baz. I like Jessica Cruz. I like them both. I think they're solid Lantern ideas. Jessica being one of the best Lantern concepts that has ever existed, because the Green Lanterns also, there's a misunderstanding. Green Lanterns are not people without fear. That's a misunderstanding. Green Lanterns have the will to move past great fear. They overcome great fear. Fear that would cripple other men, that would bring a man to his knees. They have this drive to move past it. She is the kind of person, with the disorders that she has, that she lives in fear every waking moment of her life. And it is a testament to her own courage that she even gets up in the morning to move forward with the life that she is currently living. She suffered a trauma so severe that most people would never recover from it. And it wasn't like Dad died because he was a test pilot and we always kind of knew there was a chance that he was going to die. I love you, Hal, but come on. Your dad was basically on 50% flip of the coin every day he went to work. Jessica wasn't that. So they give me two of the greatest Lanterns I've seen in a long time. Then they give me a Lantern book. And then book after book after book, they screw up the Green Lantern's powers. Like, they do things in that book that just time and time and time again make me go, what? That's not how that works. I've read 60 years. That's not how that works. And not to be a super fan, because that's what that is. That's me being a kind of a D-bag super fan. But when you do that, it makes me go, this book is really ticking me off. And I even did a couple videos on here years back talking about Green Lantern problems from the Green Lanterns books. Like where they're fighting with Mira. There are two Green Lanterns. I realize they're over the ocean. They're fighting Mara. Mara comes out. They start fighting. And she disables two Green Lanterns. There's two things here that irritated me. One, by using water kinesis, she just slipped the ring off the finger. Oh man. And people go, well, you got to understand water kinesis. Basically what she did was she snuck the water in and kind of created a film. So like the ring was no longer connected and then she could like take it off. No. There's a reason I'm saying no. One, the Green Lantern's overshield works without their thought process. That green layer of shielding that is over them, that's not something they think about. It's something that just happens by instinct. And part of the reason that that's there is because the Lanterns operate in space. And if it was so easy to slip the ring off, then they could just lose it by sweating real hard. Or if they were just fighting somebody could just be like, here, just give me that. But it doesn't work that way. That overshield puts a layer outside of them that you can't get through like that. That water would have hit that shield and the shield would have protected the ring. And if the ring detects something like that going down, it has safety things that try to kick in and stop something like that from happening. So time and time again, I saw problems like this. And on the same panel, when they lost their ring, they kept their costume on. That costume aside from the original books years back. That costume is not something that hangs in their closet. It's something that is created by the Ring, specifically from the subconscious thought patterns of different Lanterns. The reason Howl wears a mask is because superheroes were very much a thing at the time, and because he had a secret identity. Subconsciously, when the Ring forms the suit, because the suit is light, it's a light construct, it's a thing that comes out of the Ring that's formed by the power of the Ring, by your mind subconsciously that you wear the thing. You wear light, hard light, but you wear light. That's the reason the black part of the suit in some comics, they won't do like where he holds the ring up and it gets real bright and that black part of the suit, light won't reflect in there because there's no light. That's why the suit looks the way it does sometimes. But they would just have the suits. So like they'd be on a planet, and this has happened to Hal Jordan many times, where his ring will run out of power and it'll go down to 0%, and his suit will go away, and he's wearing his jacket and everything because that's what he wears, because that's not a thing. But in the Green Lantern's book, I guess they just have that suit hanging up in a closet somewhere. There were so many little things that drove me crazy about it. That this book... like, this was one of those hardcore nerd moments for me that I just, like, for some reason, like, you have those weird moments where, like, you know it's not a big deal, but you, like, can't let it pass. And I think one of the things that was driving me crazy is at the exact same time they were running this book, the Green Lantern's book, they were running another book called Hal Jordan, Green Lantern. And I think another Green Lantern book on top of it. So there were 3 Green Lantern books. And, like, the writers could not have been discussing with each other or understanding the abilities of the Green Lantern rings in correlation with one another, because, like, their book was just, like, very weird how they handled their powers and how things would happen that simply cannot happen or do not happen in any other book. And yet I read that whole thing. I liked the book, but, like, there were things about it that drove me absolutely crazy. And I'm going to have something to say about you when we get you out of here. So let's open him. Okay, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan. I don't have a Hal Jordan for the shelf yet, so when I saw that there was a chance to get a Hal Jordan for the shelf, I was like, oh yeah, I better jump on that. I don't have one. So I got one. This is him. I don't hate the idea of Green Lanterns having, like, armor plates or whatever. That doesn't bother me. But let's just go ahead and do this. That's Hal Jordan, Green Lantern. that's fine. That's about right. I don't think I have any problem necessarily with the head sculpt. I kind of like that the hair is kind of in motion. Kind of, but it will affect things like if you want him just to kind of stand there or whatever. His body overall doesn't seem like it's that bad. He's not too big. He's not too small. He looks about right for a Hal Jordan type of figure. That's fine. This is a McFarlane thing. He likes to do this, and I don't know why. Like when he released the Robin figure, which was the same Robin that was supposed to be around the Nightfall era, the Tim Drake. He gave Tim Drake like armor. Like they were like armor. Tim Drake didn't wear armor. This guy right here, this is not the suit he wore in Green Lanterns. You were not armored. This thing that you got going on here, what like this, like there's like these things like Piccolo skin or whatever, like that wasn't a thing. These were not armored boots. These were not like padded glove things. This was not armor plated. You know what you look like? You look like you may be from like New 52. And that wouldn't have been bad, because New 52 is, I kind of like the design of Hal, where he has like armor plates and everything like that. It kind of makes sense if he's thinking militaristically, if he's from the Air Force and he's kind of thinking that way, and the thing goes on and he thinks, I need protection, because of course you don't just go out into a firefight with your tight shirt, your tight Batman shirt. So maybe his ring, because I already explained how that works, his ring would have done this. Okay. But like, he didn't look like that in the Green Lantern's book. So this is another one of those cases where, I mean, you can see it right here. Look here. You see all these? See all this stuff here? And you see this? Do you see any of that? Do you see, or do you just see like a skin tight? Do you see that this guy is not this guy? Minor thing. I'm going to be honest with you. This doesn't bother me. It's just something that I like to point out, because otherwise, it's not a terrible Green Lantern figure. And also, if you're noticing, because of the stage lights, this is not like a hard matte finish or whatever, so it's kind of got like a reflective, like this doesn't reflect the light like this does. That's kind of cool, because as I hold him over here, you'll notice that while the light kind of hits the black, it doesn't have the same effect as when it hits that green. That's actually kind of cool. That will look cool in photography because the light will reflect off of the green and it will kind of create some of those effects that I've been talking about. That's not a terrible thing. This diaper thing, come on, pop out. His leg is over the diaper thing. There, I fixed it. That's not terrible. I've seen worse. He has this Green Lantern punching glove, which is boxing glove, which is it's fine. That's a fine effect for what it is. He just puts it over his hand, gets a big old giant boxing glove. Wait a second, is that? No way. Does it actually go like on? I've seen like a, that looks like there's a peg inside of there. And I'm curious if that actually goes all the way down and actually connects on there like a, that's not a bad idea, because it guarantees that you don't have to have this, like it just kind of takes the place of the hand. That's not a terrible idea. I don't hate that. That kind of worked for me. I thought that was kind of cool, actually. And then the other thing he has, which he doesn't need, but I mean, it's dumb fun anyway, so I kind of like it. He has this green construct jetpack. And the way that I can explain that, by the way, is the ring works differently by the way that each person's brain works. If you're flying and your mind is processing the idea you need to go faster, maybe subconsciously, because of the way that you view the world, you can't just make the light around you stronger and go faster. Like, they can fly. I mean, these guys, I think people misunderstand just how fast Green Lanterns can go. If you've ever been paying attention to some of the comics and you notice that, like, Barry is running, Green Lantern will sometimes fly alongside him. And I know that Barry's not going as fast as he could, but everybody else in the comic is back there. Everybody. Lantern is usually the one that can somewhat keep up with Barry, and that says a lot, because Barry is, fast. That's a cool thing about Green Lanterns. And you have to consider that, especially once they get into deep space and they really turn it on and they start, because they cross galaxies with how fast they're going. And there's a whole thing to the way the ring actually does that and whatnot. It's not just 100% speed. It's kind of like a wormhole type effect. But it is the fact that they are flying through space, galaxy to galaxy, sector to sector. I mean, that's not slow. Lanterns be fast, okay? But sometimes, you ever notice that, even though they can do that, weirdly enough, they'll be Hal will be flying a jet, like a green construct jet, and you're like, why does he need that? Maybe his brain at the time is processing he needs to go faster than what he normally goes. And his brain tells him, well, if I had extra propulsion, if I had a jet, if I had a thing that went fast, and then the ring will do that. The ring will construct a thing, and it's almost like a placebo effect. He doesn't need that jetpack. But the perception of that helps his mind kind of link in with the ring and go faster, push it harder. It does take more energy off the ring, so you'd be better just teaching yourself to understand, like Neo, there is no spoon. You don't need that, because it will drain the ring a little bit faster, but if it helps you do it, there it is. That's cool. I'm going to call McFarlane out real quick. McFarlane, what are you doing? This guy came out at the same time as that Action Comics Superman re-release. This guy came out a little bit before the Christopher Reeve Superman. You gave him a jetpack. He flies, McFarlane. Flight stand. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. You've been doing it with random figures that somewhat make sense. But other figures, I'm just going to say it, if you fly, then you should come with a flight stand. If your gimmick is that you are always in the air, always jumping, always moving, then you need a flight stand. It does not make sense to keep giving us these stupid discs. But I now have a Hal Jordan. I am going to go out of my way, I think, to buy a classic suit Hal Jordan. But I don't hate this. This will go on the shelf, and I will enjoy it for what it's worth. I'm not mad at it at all. But I did want to call it out and kind of, look, you know how my show is. My show very much is like a more of like a, it's not really reviews. It's kind of like a toy podcast where every time I get a toy, I have a reason to talk about the why and the interests and the fandom of my interests in general. It was kind of an excuse to rant about some comic stuff more than anything else. And I don't hate that figure for what it's worth. I can't wait to put him on my shelf along with everybody else. I think it'll look fine. Let's go back to the chat. Let me redo this just in case anybody said anything. I get that. I've been out of comics myself in terms of single issue releases for quite a while as well. It was a little while back, I ran into this, problem. It was over and over and over again, the single releases and the storylines constantly resetting to the status quo and stuff like that. It really took it out of me. It took it out of me in a big way to the point where it actually kind of damaged me. Like, I actually got to a point where I started to realistically hate that every time I bought a comic, there was like the possibility that I couldn't finish the storyline in the comic that I was in. I would have to buy a different book and a different book and a different book and then circle back to the book where I started the storyline. I detest that. At this point, I think comics have changed, and I think all comics should be released by complete stories, and if that means all comics should be graphic novels, I'm sold. If you want to promote other characters, that's fine. Put Wolverine or put Green Lantern or put whomever in somebody else's book during a story event. And when they come in and they're part of the story, make your little side note down there. If you're interested in She-Hulk, She-Hulk has her own story. Check out so-and-so. That I'm fine with. Doesn't bother me at all. Promote your characters. Do team-ups. But single issues, personally, I feel have gone the dinosaur. I think that we have outlived what those books were and the purpose they originally served. I don't see it anymore. And because of that, I've kind of pretty hard stepped away. In fact, recently, there's only one comic I'm really reading right now. I'm going back through, because I'm buying the omnibus, I'm going back through the original run of Conan the Barbarian, the original Marvel years, and I'm also currently, like the Roy Thomas books, and I'm also reading the Savage Sword of Conan, the original black and white releases. That's pretty much the only comic I'm reading, except for random storylines that I'm picking up that are actually kind of from my past right now. Like, I just bought The Death of Superman to read again. I wanted it. I found a graphic novel. I don't have to dig out the 40-something books that are sitting in the white boxes. I prefer it. Oh, and I'm also reading... I'm almost done. I'm finishing the very last run of Amy Schu's Red Sonja. I'm finishing the last of those books right now, and when I finish that, I will have read all of Red Sonja from beginning to the end of her run, all the way up through Red Sonja Vampirella. And then if I choose to go further than that, I may kind of dive in and see what other things have been released since then. But I'm almost done with that. But I have a lot of other books that are on the back burner right now, so I may not do that just because of what it would end up taking out of me. Like, you only have so much time, is what I'm saying. I'm curious of something real quick. Let me see. 6, really? Okay, I didn't expect that. That's good. I'm curious. What do I have sitting here? I mean, I have a lot sitting here. I gotta do something that won't take me too long. You know what? I'm using this as an excuse. I'm gonna do it. I'm kind of gonna overrule the thing here for a second. I got this guy a little while back, and I was either going to record, open him, or I'll do it right here because I'm very curious about this, and I want to do this kind of in real time. I missed it when it came out, but I got one. I got the Vintage Collection Skeletor. I want to see this. And there's a reason. Let me check real quick. Is that him back there? That's him right there. There you go. That is my favorite Skeletor released in the Masterverse line so far. I'm curious, if I open this guy up, does this Vintage Collection make a difference? Does it matter? Let's figure out. So, Vintage Collection Skeletor. Yes. Okay. So, first off, just looking in there, he looks sick. I mean, that big body there, that looks like it really pushes him. It looks like it makes him a lot more dangerous looking. I don't know. I might feel a certain way about it when I get him open. He's absolutely bare bones Skeletor. We're looking at Skeletor armor. We're looking at the hood. We're looking at the Havoc Staff, the Dark Sword. Because originally the storyline for these guys, okay, as I've argued many, many times when we talk about Motu, I talk about how there was a mini-comic story. There was an action figure story. And every single time, these are different. Motu is one of the most malleable properties I have ever seen in my entire life, and I love it for it. One of the things that I hate is when we shrink universes. When we go, oh, that guy's actually his cousin, his this, that, blah, blah, blah. And like everybody's like, oh, that makes the world so tight and expansive. I disagree. I think that when you make Skeletor Keldor, and all of a sudden he's related and he's a part of the family and everything else, I actually think you've taken this big, expansive, scary universe and pulled it into itself. There's something terrifying about a demon-esque sorcerer character that gets dropped into Eternia like a plague. And he's not the only thing out there. You don't know what else could come from anywhere else now that we've done that. And you don't know what he could bring with him if he gets back home somehow. That's way more terrifying to me than Uncle Bad Guy. Uncle Bad Guy has more of an opera thing to it. It's more of an opera, like a space opera, a drama opera to it. It pulls the universe in and makes it real tight, and then you can tell a million stories because of it. But I actually don't think it's as scary as where'd he come from? What is he? What happens if he gets back home? What would he bring back with him? That is scary. If you disagree, you disagree. And guess what? That's fine. Because in Motu, the toys are their own storyline. They really are. You can 100% tell by the way the mini-comics were released. The mini-comics didn't follow their own story from mini-comic to mini-comic. They were just suggestions. And heck, I know a lot of people act like Skeletor revealed that he was Keldor back in the mini-comics. He did not. I have read them directly. I don't know what Wikipedia everybody else is reading and what people have headcanoned. That is not what he said. He never admitted to actually being Keldor. He admitted that the revival he admitted that if they found out what happened to Keldor, it could be bad for him. And that's as far as he ever got with that. They never finished that storyline. We don't know where it would have went. And if you want to say, oh, well, writers have said this, that's also not 100%, because just like the reveal of the Green Goblin, there were a couple people in the running to be Green Goblin before it was revealed that it was Norman Osborn. And before it was revealed that it was Norman Osborn, there's still an awful lot of talk that Ditko left the book because he disagreed with that, and he was basically overruled on the idea that he was already laying down. So that's the way these things go when there's a bunch of hands in the pots. We don't know what this thing was actually ever meant to be. This is original Skeletor. This is vintage Skeletor. And the original storyline behind this about Castle Grayskull in general was they each had a sword. Almost like Shining Force's Chaos Breaker. There was a dark side and a light side, and if you put them together, it would create this Master Sword, a key to the castle. And whomever could do this, one of these guys was going to die, either He-Man or Skeletor. One of them was going to die. And that would give somebody both swords. And when both swords came together, they could open up the castle. And inside the castle were the secrets of the universe. Secrets so shocking and so unbelievable that it would fold reality in on itself. It was something we can't even fathom. Me and you, we can't even speculate what's actually in those walls. And I kind of like what they did in the DC comics, where Eternia is actually the center of all reality, and that's the reason it is the way that it is. And as that universe fights good and evil, that's what affects the multiverse at large. So as evil starts to win in Eternia, dark waves kind of resonate out through the universe and affect the multiverse of DC. Because yes, these were DC properties for a while. Those are solid comics, by the way. Very, very good. I love Motu. I do. And it's stuff like that that makes me love it. The infinite expanse of interesting things that we can talk about. And I don't have to be right, but I also don't have to be wrong, and you don't either. If you like the Keldor thing, that's 1,000% on the table, and you can run with it for as long as you want, because there's nothing stopping you from doing so. That has been an official storyline since the 2000X series that made it, put it in your face and said, this is a thing. But it wasn't in the original He-Man cartoon. He never says that. He never hints to it. And you even go to his world, his weird, screwed up dimension in one of the episodes, and Keldor doesn't come from another dimension. So you see what I mean? Every storyline is interesting because every time we reset the continuity of these, it's like I argued in the She-Ra video. Guys, this is like rolling up a D&D character. And even if you play it the same every time, it's different adventures, different setting, different world, different scenarios with different outcomes, which lead to a different story. The most malleable property I have ever seen. And now he's got a big chest. So let's open him. Okay. So, he comes with that sword, and it's kind of got a shine to it. It's that dark purple, but it's got that nice shine to it, which I kind of like. Kind of gives you the idea that there's like a dark energy that kind of runs through it. Or like maybe this is a type of metal that we don't understand, and this could be a natural state of the color of that metal. That's even kind of cool too. He has one of those expression hands, but I kind of like this one more than the Skeletor that is currently my favorite Skeletor in the line. Because it's more like this, and the other expression hands that we've been getting are like this. Case in point, because I will be comparing him, that's the expression hand that we're used to. That's the expression hand he got. I like this more. Well, which actually sits more in the realm of the original releases. The original releases, they had a hand that was like this. So that's cool. And Origins does as well. He also has this punching hand. And he, of course, comes with the fantastic Havoc staff. This time being all purple to kind of reference that it's very much like the old toy. This is a vintage type of figure. It's the idea that we took the 1980s toy and we brought it up into Masterverse. But we didn't reimagine it this time. We modernized it in Masterverse style, like we did with the 40th He-Man. I like that. It's different than this. This, I argue, my favorite one, which is I believe this is the Barbarian Skeletor. What they do with this one is they take Skeletor and they reimagine him for the Masterverse line. Had original Skeletor come out in the Masterverse line, exactly Masterverse build. This is the Masterverse buck, Masterverse design, more of a Masterverse face. This is what it would be. I like that. And so far, he's my favorite Skeletor of the line. I've absolutely loved this guy. This is not that. This is the big, bulky, reimagined, but staying as true to the original toy as we possibly can, original vintage figure, even down to the feet. What am I talking about? These were just like big, purple, angry alien feet. These were not. They had metal. There was an armor here, and then they were just like actual skin, weird, kind of like demon-y feet. Not the same thing here. That was not the same thing that we got in this one. This one has those old style feet, which I think is actually kind of cool. He is big, man. That chest is not joking. And yet, even still, as I've had this argument a couple times with different people, and it's not an argument. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. It is not an argument. It is just the way that I feel when I view this line. I like this more. This body still makes more sense to me than the Classics body. I just didn't like toys in that era. I didn't like DC Classics. I didn't like Motu Classics. It was the sculpt. It was the bucks. I didn't like the bucks of the time, and I was out of toy collecting at the time. A big portion of it because when I would go to the store and I would see toys, I wouldn't go, "Oh man, I'm missing out." I would go, "Oh," and then I would move on. It did not catch my attention. I like this. This seems more believable to me. It's still big. It's way bigger than the others in the line because it's more of a vintage. It's a big, big body. But it's still a big body that, like, I feel makes more sense. It just feels more realistic to me. Feels like a more human body. I like this. There's just enough paint to kind of lift this. It's got that purple. It kind of pops out. It's nice. I don't know. It's tiny details on a figure that looks like this that really helps it. Like these little purple things here. That really helps it. It kind of pushes it. It's the smallest of details, but you notice it when nothing else is really painted. It kind of makes those other details that have gone out of their way to be painted really pop. I mean, it pushes them out there. Like that little purple dot there, the purple dot there. The rest of this is all just left alone. But those little dots, it feels like your eyes are drawn more to that detail because there's not any detail here otherwise. So you notice the other things. I really, really like his Skeletor hood, his face. That is super creepy. Like, here, let me see if I can, let me just fix this real quick. I want to get the focus on him. See that? That is beautiful. I love that it has that red, but it's real deep in there. So as it turns, it almost seems like the eye turns and looks at you because the light hits that red that's so deep in there that it almost feels like the eyes are moving. That is sick. This guy is nice. Like, he's nice. Wow, that's good. And that, like, nasty bone color, that green, that's gross. And it should be, right? It should be. He should be gross, right? That's beautiful. That's beautiful. His head does have some resistance. It could just be that he's kind of new. But, like, it feels like the hood is almost a little bit in his way. Like, he doesn't really look down. He doesn't really look up. He kind of looks to the side. I mean, he can. You can see it. He can turn his head all the way around and everything like that. But, like, you notice it. You notice that the hood is kind of in his way because his body's almost in the way. That's what I say. He's so big. But boy, is he cool, right? Wow, that's good. Underneath this is just your standard little the belt thing that we've had on everybody else. So I like that they have this. All of it's the little buttons and straps, so you can easily take this off if you want or keep it on. And another detail that I like about things like Motu, it's a mild thing, but I think it's a big deal. His original concept is that he's not Keldor. And his feet are part of that. When they released Keldor Skeletor in the Origins wave, he's wearing boots. He has human feet. He's wearing boots. I know that's something that makes us go, oh, well, that's such a minor detail. But is it a minor detail or is it on purpose? When they released that Skeletor, the Keldor Skeletor in Origins, they released him with human boot feet. And they did not give you an option to swap his feet. Now, it's true, if you just have a Skeletor, you could just do that. But they didn't do that. They gave you the head to swap. They gave you an armor piece to swap. They gave you 2 different weapons. They went through a lot of trouble to make sure that you could change from one figure to the next. They didn't include the feet. I think that's on purpose. I think by the way that they're viewing it, when they release the figure, Keldor Skeletor is different than original Demon Feet Skeletor. They were different concepts, different ideas. I like that. I think that works. I think it really pushes the idea that I've been arguing for a long time now, that this is a line all about malleability. This line, if I had to break it down and tell you what Motu is the infinite expanse of imagination. There's nothing you can't get away with in the Motu universe. There are Terminators in the Motu universe. I mean, that doesn't make sense. There's a spaceman, a rocket spaceman, and yet we're like, that makes sense, that works. There's sorcerers. There's man-at-arms. There's, which literally is man of war, which is Iron Man. There are kings and queens, but sorceresses. And there's gladiatorial, there's gladiator societies. And like, there's nothing you can't do. These Motu, they are avatars of the imagination. Every character, every figure is an avatar of the imagination with infinite possibilities. If you can imagine it, you can play it out in Eternia. That simple. No more complicated than that. Does he steal the throne? Is he now the best Skeletor in the collection? Give me your staff, buddy. So, I like his slim build. I think there's something about a sorcerer having that slimmer build that's kind of creepy. I like his feet more. I kind of like his armor pieces more, though, than his armor pieces. I like this curved sword, but that's not the argument we're having here. The faces? I like the red in those eyes, but I might like the slender skull here more than I like the big skull here. But I like both of them for different reasons. Ooh, man. That would be tough. If I had to say 100% right now, he's my new figure, so I have that new feeling, new oohs and ahs. But like, he's my oldest, most loved Skeletor in terms of, he's my favorite Skeletor on the shelf. Oh, that's tough. I like them both for very different reasons. And you know what? I don't have to pick. But like, right now, I'm still kind of leaning towards him for minor reasons. I feel like this is such a fantastic look. But I will not lie for a second. This is imposing. And that says something too. There's something about him being so big and dangerous, but also I would tell you that that's also part of it. Like him, when I think about him with a sword or whatever, I would keep him more to the staff, and he'd be a guy that kind of stands in the distance and isn't dumb enough. He wouldn't fight close up unless he had to. This guy, though, that sword serves a purpose, and he knows how to use it. I could see this guy using this sword and being very dangerous. And at the same time, I could see this guy using this staff and being a real problem. And by the way, the staff, it's the right size. It needs to touch the ground and be as tall as the person wielding it or a little bit taller. Perfect staff. Perfect staff. Havoc staff, perfect staff. I also love that deep color. I like that deep color more than I like this color. I will say that. I like these purples more. Skeletor, vintage, added to the shelf. And that is everything that I can open for right now. I am out of time. I have to go. I have to pick up my wife. I have to do adult stuff that people do because my wife is currently at work. She gets off very soon. So I've got to make my way out there. I've got to pick her up. I've got to do my stuff, my adult stuff. I got to pick up something for dinner. Maybe find a show to watch or something like that. Spend some time with her, not like I'm forced to. I love to spend time with my wife. That's not a thing. But yeah. I am still in debate what to do. I want to start the memberships on the channel, but I don't like the idea of excluding people either. I mean, like, I know that some people that watch these, they don't have any money. And I'm not blaming you for not having any money, 100%. I get it. I get not having any money, guys. And I'm not trying to get rich off this channel at all. Like, not in any way whatsoever. But I do like the idea of just putting out the membership and seeing how many people give enough of a crap. Because I was going to put it at its lowest point, like the $1 a month thing. And then I was thinking about doing these. Because I thought I was just going to put out a thing and say, support the channel. This is just, that's all I was going to do was if you want to support the channel, if you want to give $1 to the channel and keep it running so that I can keep things like keep buying lights and stuff like that and keep messing with the setup. And then I thought about that and I was going to do it. I was going to hit live and it wouldn't let me do that because you have to, like, for the YouTube, it forces you to be like, you have to promise something to the people that are watching. And so then I thought about doing like this and being like, hey, for anybody that's interested, I will do these voted unboxings once a month where I come in here, I hang out, we do the voted unboxing, anybody that happens to be available. And heck, who knows, maybe if I can actually do it more than that. But then at the same time, continue to do what I've been doing, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through this episode, and I'm going to cut all those into actual episodes and put them up a day at a time on the actual channel. So even if you missed the live, these videos would still exist in snippets of what we were doing, like this entire conversation. And then if I ever had to reference back to it, because I put annotations in almost every single video. Every single video that I do while I'm editing, I keep a notebook by me, and I make notes of any time that I've mentioned something from another video or something that might correlate to what we're currently talking about that I've already talked about. And then I can go back, I add those to the annotations. So if you're ever paying attention and you're curious what it is I'm talking about, like, hey, we already talked about this being a problem or yada yada, so I'm not going to go into that. And if you're curious to hear my thoughts on something like that, I have it in the annotations all the time. I stick to those annotations pretty hard. I take them pretty seriously. So oftentimes, if we've talked about a figure before, or I'm bringing up a topic that we've discussed, they're in the annotations. And that's the reason I cut these up into sections, is because later on I may say, if you remember, we talked about this with Guile or something like that. And I don't want you to have to go back to this 3 hour and 11-minute video to try to find where I talked about Guile. I'm just going to post that part of the video, the Guile conversation. And if we ever end up talking any further on that, there will be an annotation and there will be a video. So if you miss any of these lives, you'll still catch up on everything that we ever talked about, and you don't have to go back and spend 3 hours watching a live. You can watch the 15-minute part that we more than likely, the part that more than likely mattered to you or whatever. But let me know. Anybody has ideas? Anybody wants to say anything? If you're looking forward to any other unboxings, if you really like these type of videos, let me know, because I'm doing a lot of stuff on the channel right now. I've been posting like a video a day, every single day consistently. And I think that I don't know how long I can keep that pace. So far, it's not a problem. But these are, I'm being serious. I enjoy these videos a lot. So if other people are enjoying these videos, I'd love to know, because it really sets my mind to kind of come in and guarantee that I do this every couple weeks. But guys, I gotta go. I can't sit here and talk forever. Stuff to do, things to do. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for sticking with me, and I'm gonna get out of here later on.